Let's talk about tempo. Tempo, Italian for time, is the speed or pace at which a song or piece of music plays. It's usually measured in beats per minute, and you can see this abbreviated as BPM on sheet music or in MIDI software. Compositions, of course, can be fast, slow, or anywhere in between. Composers can choose to write a piece using the same speed throughout, or they can play around with tempo and add numerous changes to create different effects, moods, or tones. These changes in speed can increase or decrease and can be gradual or sudden. When it comes to Doom WAD music, the same principles apply. Here are some MIDIs that make excellent use of tempo change to give you some songwriting and composing ideas for your music. To begin, here's an oldie but a goodie. Icarus Alien Vanguard's soundtrack is home to some fantastic music rooted in science fiction. David Shaw's track, Recapture, makes this apparent as soon as you start Icarus's first level. This track opens with a synthesized bass playing at around 180 BPM. Then, after just 1 minute in, things grind to a halt, with the tempo slowing to approximately 85 BPM. This slower pace continues for another 30 seconds or so before steadily climbing back up to the original speed after a beautiful harp solo. After the synth bass reprise, the tempo slows again, but only slightly this time, to what sounds like maybe 175 BPM. The track closes with one more slowdown to somewhere around 100 BPM while riffing on a familiar Doom 2 track. Another classic that makes effective use of tempo change is The Wind, brought to us by Mark Clem, and first appearing in Memento Mori. For the most part, it clocks in somewhere between 130 and 135 BPM. However, its middle section is a little slower, coming in around 95. After about 2 minutes, the piece returns to the original speed to carry us through to the end. It's not just older MIDIs that feature tempo changes. A more contemporary example is the Mogul tune Lipstick, which features in Freedoom Phase 1. For a little while, this piece steadily moves along at 92 beats per minute. Near the halfway point, we're greeted by a sudden increase to 120 BPM. Now, generally speaking, 120 is a moderate pace, but it's enough of a change here to be very noticeable. That said, this change isn't so obvious at first due to the lack of drums for 8 measures. Before long, the tempo reverts to 92 near the end of the piece to make the MIDI's loop appear seamless in-game. Interestingly, this MIDI and all others in the Freedoom Phase 1 soundtrack were replaced with the release of version 0.13, so you won't hear this one in-game unless you're playing an older version of the WAD. I'd be remiss if I didn't highlight this mesmerizing gem by Zan Zan Zawavea, titled Ulfsnu. Originally from the WAD Frog and Toad, this is another MIDI that plays around with tempo change quite a bit. We start at 86 BPM, and continue at that speed for about 2 minutes for the most part. Right about here, there's a sudden drop way down to 30 BPM for just a moment, followed by a return to 86. Then, at about this point, we gradually slow to 72. At the start of this measure is a split-second plummet to 44 BPM, then a rapid increase to a new, faster tempo at 108. We stay at this speed until the very end when we have another slowdown to 43. Here's another one you may not have heard in a while. Labeled HacX 12 within the HacX WAD file, this nearly 8-minute-long Ellsworth Hall opus starts somewhere between 145 and 150 BPM. Hall then employs a time signature change and a very slight increase to around 155. Near 2/3 of the way in, we slow down quite a bit to around 85 BPM, where the pipe organ takes over. Like the previous 2 tracks, this one also changes tempo right near the end to bring us back up to the first tempo we were hearing. Fun fact, Hall later reworked this composition under the name Final Affinity and wrote lyrics for it. Speaking of time signature, every so often composers will play around with it to simulate tempo changes. The speed of a piece can seemingly jump around all over the place, like in this MIDI from Akeldama called Page Removed, courtesy of Luke Force. The number of beats per minute doesn't change at all throughout the piece, but there are numerous time signature changes ranging all over the place, from 4/4 to 6/8 and 15/16. One more instance of this is Paul Korfiatis' track Totally Evil from 2002 A Doom Odyssey. We start off sounding relatively fast here, at a steady 130 BPM, but listen to what happens here. It sounds like we've slowed down considerably, but this isn't the case, as the tempo hasn't changed from 130 BPM as we can see. Instead, we've gone from 4/4 to 3/4 time. The tempo stays at 130 even when we go back to 4/4 later. So you see, a lot of what we hear in terms of speed is based on different perceptions. What may sound fast and urgent to someone may sound slower and more relaxed to another. That subjectivity is just one part of what makes music so great after all. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I want to hear from you about this topic especially. What Doom WAD MIDIs do you know of that change tempo like the ones we discussed? While researching for this video, I was surprised to find so few examples of tempo change, but maybe there are more out there that I just missed. Let me know in a comment below. Until next time, this is Ray from the Phobos Amphitheater, and I hope you have a wonderful day.